Okay, great. Well, we just heard the bells, so I'm going to call the meeting of July 18th, 2022 to order, the Duncan City Council meeting. I'd like to acknowledge that we're on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish and the Cowichan peoples. And I'd also like to state that in this room are different views, different ways of expression, different emotional intensities, and different roads that lead to conclusions. May we combine clarity of mind and kindness of heart, and may we be impartial without bending to strong personalities. May we sacrifice self-interest for the good of the whole. May we do our work with love and clarity of vision for the benefit of those we represent. And I note there are a couple of late items.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Duncan. There are two late items for Council's consideration. The first one is the Plan H grant, BC Healthy Communities, which has been added as item 9.2. And the second item is the employment posting for a multicultural mural festival and art installation project manager, which is to be considered with item 7.1.
Thank you. I'll get...
Can you say that one again, please?
Absolutely. Through to Councillor Bruce. The second item there on the list for a late item is the employment posting for the Multicultural Mural Festival and Art Installation Project Manager. So it's been added to the agenda to be considered along with item 7.1, which is the COVID-19 grant application from the Cowichan Intercultural Society.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda with the late items. Approved, seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Adoption of the minutes. Minutes of 4.1, June 20th, 2022, and July 5th, 2022, the joint special council meeting. Should we pass them both together? Okay. Got a motion to pass? And second. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. Delegations, 5.1. Amanda, you're up. Normally we have a 10-minute limitation, but if you need a little more time, I think council will oblige you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we'll do our best. All right, let's do a trial. Yep, there we go. Good evening. I snate Asiam Siatala Kwasiatana Wanant Hi Chapka. I raise my hands in thanks for the opportunity to speak to you tonight and to consider the mural project for Happy Hearts in Duncan. My name's Amanda. I'm the Executive Director of the Cowichan Intercultural Society, and I'm here with Mural Seymour and Lorene Charlie, both elders with Cowichan tribes, and Councillor L.B. Charlie, who's an elder and also a councillor of Cowichan tribes. So before we begin, I was going to ask Mural Seymour if he could begin with a prayer.
First of all, I just really raise my hands to each and every one of you for being here today for this meeting, leaving behind anything that you were doing to be at this meeting tonight. I really raise my hands to each and every one of you. I raise my hands to my elders that are here tonight. I thank the Great Spirit for the ones looking after the ones that are in hospital. I raise my hands to the Great Spirit for looking after all our children. I raise my hands for always looking after all our elders. I raise my hands to each and every one of you once again. Thank you.
Mural. I wanted to follow that beautiful prayer with a land acknowledgement, just pointing that Cowichan Intercultural Society and our partners who are not here tonight, I'll go over them in a second, but we all recognize we're on the traditional unceded territories of the Cowichan people. CIS is a settlement agency, so we welcome newcomers to Canada. We help people become a Canadian citizen. And while that's done with obviously the best of intentions, it does mean we're a part of a colonial fabric and history. And so we try to make reconciliation and anti-racism a part of all of our projects. I think that as well, there's an opportunity here tonight to extend that work to all of Duncan as a part of rebuilding after COVID. So we're Nanum Tth'ele. That means meeting of happy hearts. And the point of our group coming together with the Downtown Duncan BIA, CIS, Duncan United Church, and Cowichan Tribes elders and youth was to look at a mural project which could help beautify downtown Duncan in an inclusive way, continuing some of the conversations that we started with the Hulkaminum signage project in 2019. This here is Ali from the DDBIA, really talented graphic designer, so she did the logo. It's been a really great group effort. The church had prepared food, and elders came with their knowledge of the language and history, and we've all had a really good time learning together. What we're working towards is 2 murals in downtown Duncan, one on this large blank wall here at 221 Jubilee Street next to Duncan United Church. Jim Painter has agreed we could put a reconciliation mural there. The other is at 191 Station Street, which is Area 51. And we're hoping that by putting reconciliation murals here, it would really kind of add some vibrancy and color to those parts of downtown. They'd also build on existing tourist attractions, the totem tour and the Hulkaminum signage, and kind of create like a good cohesive presence downtown. And also we're hoping that this would just be a beginning, that while the 2 murals this year that we would hopefully put up would be themed with reconciliation, we could do other murals with other cultures and have a multicultural mural festival over time. And so the funding that we've received so far and hope to receive tonight would go towards creating capacity in Duncan to do this on an annual basis as a nonprofit, not me, just to clarify. So yeah, we're hoping to center reconciliation, love of art, and also a part of this discussion is that the reason we had talked about the Hulkaminum signage project back in January 2021 was because there were Cowichan Tribes members who were refused service at certain small businesses in Cowichan. And I had wanted to ask if one of you would be comfortable sharing what that experience was like. Were you going to say something or no? Were you going to say something?
Good afternoon. My name is Hualcaletse, baptized name L.B. Charlie. I'm counselor for Cowichan Tribes, but here I'm a citizen. And I really appreciate this opportunity in meeting with all of you and working together towards better and meaningful relationship. Going back a little bit, at 2008, Cowichan come together for the World Indigenous Games and Tribal Journey. The whole community of Cowichan come together to work together, building better understanding and relationship. I have to say that this was very successful because of everyone's participation from the whole island. People from Alberta, Saskatchewan, Oregon, they all come down this way. And it was very, very heartwarming. the citizens from Cowichan, all ethnic groups come together, work together. They participated culturally. They joined our citizens in singing a welcome song. They held drums. In the past, they would never, you had to gain respect to hold a drum. But we had a lot of different ethnic groups gain that respect. And they welcomed the other provinces to our territory. That was very heartwarming. And since then, that opened the door to a relationship of working together. And today, we're still taking those steps and moving forward. And I thank you again for this opportunity. I just have to say, this place kind of spooks me. Because this was the old Indian Affairs, Indian Aid. On that side, I guess they said it was a doctor's office, but it wasn't. They more or less practiced on us. So I had to share that horror story because these are one of the experiences that we went through. And today, we're still moving towards making a better change by this relationship. And I thank you. Hi, Tth'ele.
So what happened in January 2021 would be an example of what we do not want to continue, and this is an example of what we hope we can build on. One of the phrases you might have picked up on in the call to artists in the agenda was "Tuitsu tun shkwalowin," which means be truthful with your feelings. This was Albie Charlie's take on reconciliation, because we were talking about how reconciliation is a process that was imposed on Cowichan tribes that they didn't actually actively shape. And so we asked what it would actually look like in a local context. And through talking about different experiences with addictions and other issues, we landed on be truthful with your feelings, because that is a healing act, and it is also a precursor to honest conversation. And that's a really important part of reconciliation. Did you want to add anything?
No, that's good.
So, all this to say that we had a couple of requests from City Council tonight that we hope you'll consider. The first is our grant and aid request from the COVID-19 fund. That would be to fund a project manager. The employment posting was added belatedly to the agenda, which Paige mentioned. And it would be, I think, really essential to have a project manager, not just to not burn me out, but also because it would really allow us to look at making this an annual festival, something that we can lay the foundation for future mural production. The example that's kind of in our minds is the Vancouver Mural Festival. It's grown into something quite large since 2016. It was started by the City of Vancouver with a fairly large grant and aid over the course of 2 years. And now they continue to support it with a mural support program. So there are other models out there for us to consider. Vancouver Mural Festival Society eventually founded a nonprofit, Create Vancouver. Create Vancouver started a social enterprise, the Vancouver Mural Festival Society Agency, and that's how they fund doing these beautiful projects now, many a year. So there are other examples out there that I think it would be great to have someone look into. The more murals you do, the more maintenance will be required, so I wanted to discuss a maintenance agreement and what that might look like, and also ask for Public Works guidance with equipment rentals or any other public safety issues that may come up while installing a mural. I want to make sure it's done right. There were different costs that I think I can project at this point. I've redacted one of our funders because they haven't had a chance yet to announce their funding, but they did confirm $50,000. Duncan United Church has also confirmed $50,000 from their Provision Grant Fund in Victoria. CIS has given time, and then we're hoping City of Duncan can as well. Some of the costs would include, aside from project management, aluminum panels, because we hope to create movable, endurable art pieces that aren't just painted on the wall, but that could survive if the building moved or was taken down. And then some of the milestones we're hoping to achieve is to announce an artist on Orange Shirt Day, which is September 30th, and to complete the murals by the May 27th, 2023 anniversary of the Kamloops grave announcement. I don't think I have time, but I was going to share this from Lucy Thomas. Do I have a couple of minutes? So Lucy is one of the elders involved in this project as well, and she said, "I'm a Cowichan band member and an elder in my community. My name is Lucy Thomas, and I was honored to work on 2 committees with Amanda Vance. The first was Nanum to Silweni to Spanam, the Hulkaminum signage project. The committee consisted of Chief William Seymour, Mayor Michelle Staples, and Duncan City Council and staff, Lucy Marvid Charlie, Albie Charlie, Lorene Charlie, Mural Seymour, Lucy Thomas, Kavanagh Thorne, Jonathan Bill, Leona Peter, Jules Wilson, William Vicious, Ian Locke, Judy Stafford, and Amanda Vance. We gathered every Thursday night at the Cowichan Tribe's boardroom, shared meals together, talked about the history of our valley and how place names have changed over time. It was very nice how we came up with the Hulkaminum names for downtown streets. We were just going to announce it when COVID-19 hit, and we had to do the project in a quiet way during COVID without an in-person ceremony. The same elders came together for a mural project, as a picture says 1,000 words. We sat together at the Duncan United Church this time. We shared meals together. We spoke of our history, our dreams, the messages we want to share with the community. We listened to other stories of trauma in the world. We laughed, we cried, we hugged each other. The one word that sticks to my mind after this planning is Tth'ele, happy heart. We've looked over our history and we have come a long way, from no Indians allowed to sitting together and planning amazing events like this and sharing a meal. As we work together on these community events, I feel more and more pride each time I participate. As a survivor of residential school, it feels so good to be on these committees. I raise my hands to you. I hope you can share in my vision of working together in unity. And I'm happy to take any questions you may have. Thank you. Hajka.
No questions from council? Go ahead, Councillor Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor Duncan. You spoke, thank you, it was a wonderful presentation. I support this. But you did speak about maintenance, some maintenance costs, and there was nothing in your presentation as to what that was. And my fear is that a lot of it will be offset to the city because we have the equipment necessary to manage it. So have you any idea what the budget for costs will be for maintenance?
I don't at this point, and I would need help from other people in order to develop that. I'm not totally sure. I would need to look into it more. I agree that there probably would be costs. I know when I was at the BIA before, we had different murals downtown that there was always a question about how they were going to be maintained when something would go wrong. So there was one over by the Cowichan Green community. It was taken down. Someone stole a part of it. And it ended up being kind of shared between the BIA and CGC to fix it. But there was no agreement from the start about how that would work. So I wish I had a number for you. I don't yet. It would probably depend on how much it actually costs to do the mural, and I won't know that until we have a proposal from an artist. I do imagine there would be costs. I just don't know how much yet. And I think it would be better to discuss it at the start rather than like the other ones, like not doing that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Go ahead. Councillor Bruce.
Thank you, Mayor Duncan. Good evening, thank you. Who is actually applying for this grant from the city?
Cowichan Intercultural Society.
And are they going to be doing the mural?
So currently, yes, we had some funding from someone who has asked not to be named yet, which would cover some of it. And we'd be sharing costs with Duncan United Church, which also got a grant. So there's a high level of interdependence with this project. Not one organization is holding funds. To do the consultation process with the elders here, it was funds that the Duncan United Church had raised that I was the one who administered, like made sure the checks went out and tracked the expenses and so on. So it would be, in this case, Cowichan Intercultural Society holding the funds from the city of Duncan, but there'd also be $10,000 from Duncan United Church.
Would you say that all again? Sorry, I missed that.
Sorry, I talk fast when I'm nervous.
Okay. My hearing's shot anyway.
We'll get there. So basically, we're sharing costs, Duncan United Church and Cowichan Intercultural Society. And so while I'm applying for the grant from City of Duncan as someone from Cowichan Intercultural Society, Duncan United Church would also be paying towards the project manager. It would be split 50-50. They would probably pass the funds to Cowichan Intercultural Society, and as we already did with the honorariums, I would administer it. I would make sure the checks get written and the expenses are recorded and so on. And then I'd report back to the church, and they'd report back to their funders. So the short answer is that we would be sharing it.
Okay, I see your budget looks like about $115,000. Now, is it? I struggle with this COVID money that we put out there to start with, you guys. So, anyways, I'm just wondering, is the project going to stop if the city does not give you the 10 grand?
No, but it would limit the project considerably, in part because there's just a human limit to how many hours I can work. And right now I've been the person who's managing this project, and I really need assistance. And there's only so much funding from Duncan United Church for a person. But I made a commitment to the elders and to the church, and I'll see it through regardless. But I humbly ask for help with funding a project manager. It would make my life a lot easier.
Go ahead.
And looking at the financials, it looks like the Intercultural Society is running at a deficit. Is that something that can be corrected, or how do you see that coming down?
We don't have, so those are our old statements from the year before. It doesn't show what has happened since. Long story short, a social enterprise dissolved and we no longer have a deficit. We do have some funds, but we are basically entirely dependent on the federal government and provincial government to run our core services, our settlement services.
Go ahead, Jenny first, and then Councillor Newington.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you so much for coming this evening, and Heitsapka, and I really appreciated the presentation. And in looking over the presentation and the materials that were sent to us, I really think that this project is a perfect fit for the COVID-19 Safe Restart grants. They've demonstrated seeking other funding and being approved for that other funding. And I commend the other groups and individuals that have stepped up to help and fund this project. I don't see why we wouldn't want to be included as a part of this. I think this could be a really monumental project, the start of a really interesting thing for downtown Duncan, and to help bridge the communities, to help repair and maintain that connection. As well, I think the COVID Safe Restart grants are a perfect fit for this because they are an organization applying for a brand new project, and it does stand to bring attention and quite a bit of traffic to downtown. From where I stand, I think the potential for bringing more tourism to see these art pieces, and who knows what it could grow into, but I just think it could be really huge. So that would be quite helpful for downtown businesses. I've been working for small downtown businesses since I was a teenager, and seeing the recovery from COVID has been a lot of struggles and a lot of hard work. So getting more people to downtown, and especially for something as meaningful as this, it aligns with our values as an organization to work towards reconciliation. So I really don't see any reason why we wouldn't support this. I think it's a perfect fit for the fund.
Councillor Nui.
Thank you. Mayor Duncan. I agree with Jenny. Everything that she said was what I was going to say, so no worries. But I do have one question, and I just want to clarify that the money and the budget that you have got here, that will be kept separate from the Intercultural Society. Am I correct?
Yes.
And it will be reported as a separate entity to whomever needs to have that information. It is not, the $10,000 isn't going to be melted into the Intercultural Society.
No,
Perfect.
not at all.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Actually, one goes to staff. Would this mural project be subject to our mural committee review?
Thank you, Councillor or Acting Mayor Duncan. Sorry, it wasn't on. Thank you, Acting Mayor Duncan. There's a couple of points to perhaps clarify. In the timeline document, not sure which page it is on the application, they listed the advisory design panel that would likely, in our case, would go to the art jury panel. And so yes, it would involve that piece. And the timeline itself that's been proposed is relatively new, the first time, or relatively recent that we've seen that from a staff perspective. So I think that might need some massaging to fit the jury panel in there, and as well as any other processes, and as well as explore the maintenance aspect that Amanda is referring to. So those are some I don't want to say cautionary factors from the project itself, but just from perhaps the timeline perspective, might need some massaging to make sure that can be accommodated.
And
May I just suggest that we continue the discussion regarding the grant application just a little later on in the agenda?
okay.
Only because I'm hoping the delegates could have a seat.
Unless there's any other questions.
Okay, well, I don't see any other questions, and I've got one, but I'll wait till we get to that on the agenda. So thank you very much for the presentation. You're welcome to stay with us if you wish. And other than that, I guess we move on to 6.1, which is
Thank you.
report of the CAO. Peter.
Thank you. So I'll just run through a few of them. The Cairnsmore Roundabout with council supported grant application for the Strategic Priorities Fund was submitted in June of 2022, and so we're hopeful that most recent application will be successful. As you know, the previous one we were unfortunately not one of the selected recipients. The final design drawings for the Trans-Canada pathway from the Silver Bridge to the Ramada have been received and are under review for the last details. The project could be ready for tendering for construction bids in the next few weeks. Ability to complete the project this fall will depend on contractor availability and what the pricing comes in at. Working paper number 2 has been presented for council for review of the transportation and mobility strategy. I was at the joint council meeting. And we are being provided to council in the coming weeks. There's an extension to the TMS staff and the consultants have prepared conceptual designs for new protected bike lanes on Coronation Avenue for the next BC Active Transportation Grant funding opportunity, which is anticipated to open up this fall. Engineering designs for the 3rd Street renewal, which will be a 2022-2023 project. It's now at 60% for a full renewal of the 3rd Street from Canada Avenue Centennial Park. Conceptual playground designs are currently posed on the PlaySpeak websites for public feedback on the designs and preferences for specific playground elements. a significant amount of detailed design will still be required to finalize the playground designs afterwards, and which components and exact siting and budget considerations. Just skip that one. The city has received a development permit application for 365 Ypres with a variance it received for a 6-story, 96-unit residential development. The project would front both Bray Road and Ypres. The application has been referred internally and externally, and the ADP has reviewed the application. Staff are preparing an application review letter that will go to the applicant, providing that ADP feedback and further staff feedback. So we anticipate that coming back, excuse, to council in coming months. Staff have received Morrison Hirschfield's interim design brief for the roof replacement of City Hall that has identified issues and provided recommendations towards the repair strategy with respect to various building envelope assemblies and components. Staff anticipate that the tender package for the roof replacement will be sent out by the beginning of August, while the heritage alteration permit and building permit applications are being processed. And lastly, property tax payments and homeowner grant claims were due on July 4th. However, council has approved an extension to the penalty date, so no penalties will be applied until the September 30th extended date. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeVertai. Any questions for Mr. DeVertai? Go ahead, Councillor Bruce.
Thank you, Mayor Duncan. On White Road, is there any change in strategy since the BC government let the BC housing people go? There was is there any change in the administration or how that building is going to be run, or?
I'm not aware of any particular change. We can inquire as to if there's any recent changes and report back to council.
Okay. Do you know of which I refer?
I do not, but it sounds like there's some head nodding, so we'll look into that and follow up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions? Oh, go ahead.
With our I've asked this before, but our city, our COVID grants that we still have out there, $54,000. Is there any chance we can pull that back into our coffers at this point? Is it available to pull back? Is my question really, and can we do so?
Well, the council had allocated those funds for a particular grant program, and if council as a group decides to change the parameters of the program or the funding envelope, whether it increase it or decrease it, it's fully council's prerogative.
Mr. DeVertai, isn't that fund also subject to perhaps being returned to the province?
We've been informed that there is no risk of return to the province of the provincial monies that the city received.
Okay, great. Not seeing any other questions. We'll move on to 7.1. Reports of staff, COVID grant application. Go ahead, Jen. Councillor Cap, sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you. And is it all right if I make a motion at this time?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to move option 1, that council approve the COVID-19 grant and aid to the Cowichan Intercultural Society in the amount of $10,000 for hiring a management position to plan and implement 2 reconciliation murals to be funded from the COVID-19 Safe Restart grant funds.
And there's a seconder. Is there any discussion? Okay, well, I do have a question around the ongoing costs. I have some concerns about proceeding without knowing how much it may cost. I imagine it would be 3 to 5 years from now, after the murals have been out in the weather for a while, what it's going to cost to keep them in pristine condition. Is there any way that we can look at the motion and include something around agreement, subject to agreement of ongoing costs, or is there some way that we can get an idea, perhaps, say, from the Totem Subcommittee, how much they spend on maintenance of the poles? I'm just, I'm struggling. Councillor Brooke brought it up earlier around the ongoing costs, and I think we have to have some sort of idea what that might be.
Yeah, the cost of maintenance is something that was relatively recent addition to the discussion as well. In past Historical Society installations, so we've got a few of those that we could draw on, and it's up to council perhaps, and it's ultimately, if we're going to agree to ongoing maintenance of them, that would be, I think, perhaps a separate decision, because this particular one can be related to the project management itself, and could be a separate decision as to whether the ongoing maintenance of them is required. Most of our past ones have been either done with a development permit or through Historical Society operations, and we have on occasion had some of our public works staff deal with some small repairs due to vandalism, but it's been pretty rare and I guess rare is close enough. I was looking for another adjective, but it's eluding me. But if that's of particular concern for council, we could look into that before the decision, but it's your call.
Go ahead, Councillor Capps.
Thank you. At this point, what we're agreeing to with this motion is only to fund the management position. I think that it is prudent for us to get that information, and once there is a management position in place, that information will be forthcoming. I think that it is entirely up to council whether, once we receive the information about maintenance, whether that's realistic or not for us to proceed, but I feel quite confident that something could come forward. There's an opportunity for partnerships. There's different ways that sort of the maintenance question could be dealt with. The fact that it is a question mark at this point, I still think that it's worth approving the funds for the management position. I still think it's worth approving this grant application. And that's information that we'll get in the future, and that is a separate matter from this motion. And if it turns out that it's just incredibly costly to maintain these, then we can work on a solution for that at that time. I'm still in favor of the motion that's in front of us.
Go ahead, Councillor Bruce.
Yeah, I can't vote for it with the maintenance not. I just think it's $115,000 we're looking at. I know that's total cost of the whole thing, but I couldn't vote for this and then have some kind of a maintenance contract, because I think it will definitely fall on the city, and I don't think our residents would appreciate that too much. So I would be voting against this the way it is written right now. Thank you.
Seen any more hands? So I guess I will call the question. Do we need to read the motion again, or everyone understand the motion?
I think we understand.
Okay. So all in favor? Opposed? Councillor Bruce opposed. Motion carries. 7.2. Development Permanent Amendment Application to amend DP 2021/03 for 446 and 454 Ypres Street and 455 Festubert Street. And should we get a motion for that? Couple of hands there. Okay.
Thank you.
And who will be speaking to this amendment? See, I knew who to look at.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have anything to add to the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions council might have.
Any questions from council? Seeing none?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Councillor Brooke.
Thank you. So my understanding is the point of this is that the roof line will change because the elevator shaft is higher. Is that correct?
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Brooke, that's correct. So the applicants are now at the detailed building permit design stage, and the designs they received back from their mechanical engineer included elevator equipment, penthouse equipment, and HVAC equipment, air conditioning units that were not shown on the development permit drawings. So that brings the height above that maximum 17-meter height, and so that's the purpose of the amendment, is to add that variance to the maximum height.
And what does it change it to from 17 to?
17 feet, which is approximately 17 meters, which is approximately 56 feet, and with the new equipment on the roof, it would bring it to 60 feet, so an additional 4 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead. Councilor Middlemas.
I just have a weird question because this, I didn't understand this part, but what the variance, like, what made up like 10%? It says the area's or period is 10%, and they're asking for 26.3%. Like, I don't get that.
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Middlemas. So under the bylaw right now, some of the mechanical equipment and the elevator penthouse can already exceed the maximum 17-meter height. So provided that, well, it's about both. So that equipment that can exceed the maximum height can be no more than 10% of the roof area. So you can have a little bit of the roof covered in that equipment. But because of this particular design, they have much more equipment, so it occupies more of the roof area. So it's going from the 10% up to the 26% roof coverage.
So just to follow up on that, so do you think that that's going to be something that we're going to run into on a more regular basis, where there's more roof being covered by equipment in the future, perhaps climate change related? Is it something that we have to look at because our bylaw is only at 10%, and from now on, are we going to be dealing with 30% roof coverage?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it is something that we're going to need to look at. There are some unique elements to this particular design and the proponent involved that means that equipment cannot be in the individual units and has to be on the rooftop in a consolidated form. We have seen other, for example, the residential building that's under construction on Garden Street right now. My understanding is all of the equipment is actually incorporated into the design of the building, and they're designing to step code 4. So I think it is something we need to look at, but there are unique aspects to this particular proposal that mean that more of the roof does need to be covered by that equipment.
Okay, any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Bruce.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand we've got a bit of a dilemma here because we're well on in this process, but I think we must watch how high we are getting in the neighborhood. We've shocked the neighborhood a little bit with 6 stories on Garden Street, and I don't know that we want to. I think you're quite right. We must have a look at this. Maybe is it too late for this building here? Is this something that the horse is already out of the barn?
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Bruce. So this is why it's so important that we do a really comprehensive review at the development permit stage, and we usually look for the proponents to do as much of that detailed design at the development permit stage as possible. Unfortunately, there are always situations where because of the cost to do the detailed design, it doesn't make sense to do that until the building permit stage. So there are things that slip through, like this particular circumstance. I think not issuing the variance would require a significant redesign of the whole building, so it would really sort of push us back to the earlier stages of development. So I think at this point, might technically be possible, but would require a significant redesign of the building. And just, I can't say for certain because again, there's unique elements to the proponent involved in their particular standards that require the equipment to not be located in the units and instead be in a secure, consolidated place on the roof.
Go ahead.
So, just ask one more time because I don't understand. So, our regular bylaws allow for a 10% chunk of the roof being used to be a bit higher. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And this plan wants 30% of the roof.
26%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Not seeing any other questions. Oh,
One more, just for clarification, thank you. So it's not higher, it's just broader than this variance, is that correct? It was going to be,
Yeah, there's more of the roof area that exceeds the 17-meter maximum height.
right?
So there's more mechanical, HVAC, air conditioning, and elevator equipment on the rooftop that exceeds the maximum height.
So what is the what is the height of the roof, the highest point now?
Under the previously issued development permit, it was 56 feet, and now portions of that roof are going to be up to 60 feet.
Thank you.
okay, I'm not seeing any more hands, so I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the variance? Passed. Thank you very much. 7.3, the council requests that Mayor Michelle Staples, delegate, or Councillor Newington, alternate, attend the Municipal Insurance Association of BC Annual General Meeting on September 13th, 2022. You agreeable to that? Is there? Okay. So that was moved by Councillor Capsman. Is there a seconder?
Sure.
Thank you. So, all those in favor? Okay. Give Councillor Newington another job. 7.4. Fire Department request for replacement of F number 3-2000 crew cab command vehicle. That council authorized the purchase of a command vehicle with a budget of $80,000 plus outfit costs of up to $35,000 as detailed in the July 18th, 2022 report from the fire chief, funded by a combination of equipment reserve funds and the 2021 net revenues from the department's deployment of the 2021 interior forest fires. And that staff be directed to amend the 2022 financial plan accordingly. Is there a mover? And a seconder? Oh, moved and seconded. Is there some discussion? Would you like to say something? Go ahead, Mr. Crossman.
Thank you, Mayor Duncan. So the 2022 budget already has the purchase of this command vehicle in it, but at the time we prepared the budget, we were thinking that maybe we could just get a used pickup to replace I think it's a year 2000 one that we have right now. And so we thought maybe we could get a used one to replace it. And so it's looking like, because we have the extra revenues from fighting the wildfires last summer, it's looking like we're recommending to buy a new pickup now to replace the command vehicle. And we do have, as he mentioned, we have Thomas here to answer any additional questions if needed. So the fire department has gone through and gotten a bunch of quotes, and they've looked at the various models that are out there. They've done some analysis between purchasing a regular gas engine and purchasing a hybrid, and it's all listed here in the report. By the time you factor in possibly replacing a battery in the middle of the 20-year term, that kind of eats up some of your cost savings. This isn't a perfect analysis, of course, because we don't know what gas prices are going to do. But there are some things that are a bit of a downfall with using a hybrid for the fire department. So they've gone through and detailed all the options that they need on the pickup, and this can be fully funded from the reserves that we have already, and no further tax implications are for this purchase. Was there anything else, Peter, that we needed to speak to, or if there's any questions?
Go ahead, Councillor Newington.
So what will happen to the old command vehicle? Will it be sold and then the money put back into the cost of the new command vehicle?
Mayor Duncan through to Councillor Newington. Yes, we would plan to auction off and decommission and auction off the old pickup. I think they were thinking we might get $5,000 for it.
So go ahead, Councillor Bruce.
Thank you, Mayor. So the old truck's 2,000? And how many kilometers on that vehicle? 50,000? Yeah, I can see where your math on the hybrid, with whatever the price of gas is, it might be, I can see where we're going to buy a new vehicle, but I can also see where possibly it would be a gas or a diesel or whatever, but not a hybrid, not for that kind of mileage. Does that make sense?
No. No, I'm missing that a bit too. Go ahead, Councillor Burke. Because we're driving less miles, it just means that our costs overall would be lower. We'd be buying less gas, we'd be using less plug-in time. So just because there's less mileage on the vehicle, I don't see how that would affect the decision on hybrid or not a hybrid. Maybe I'm missing the point too. Mr. Crossman, you got something there?
Thomas, would you like to speak to the hybrid versus the gas model and the differences in the fire department using a pickup versus just an average person?
Yeah, so I've talked to a bunch of techs at Ford and the sales guys and everything. So for hybrid, for the way it works, you have to ease up on the gas. You got to go super slow starting off and everything. The way we drive the trucks, and you see the cops all driving and everything, we're hard on the gas. We've got to get going and everything for the 2 to 3 minutes that we drive. So the benefit of going gas against the hybrid, we won't really kick into hybrid. So for our type, it's really spending the $6,000 to $8,000 more on a truck that we won't benefit from using the hybrid part when we drive it. And then just the battery cost of replacing it. They're only 2 years old, these trucks, and so they don't know how long they're going to last, how much they're going to cost. So we can run into $3,000 or $10,000 for a battery. Yeah, it's just not really suited for a small department that drives around very rarely. It's more for big departments or like the city public works that drives around a fair amount. So yeah, it's not really suited for what we would use it for.
So primarily it doesn't have enough get up and go right at the start, basically.
Yeah, so if you if you put on the gas a lot heavier than normal, it stays in gas mode.
Okay.
And then, but if you go nice and super slow, like
you never do.
Like you never
Yeah.
do kind of deal.
Yeah, that's right.
It will kick into, it will use the hybrid part. Then if you give it more gas, the gas will kick in.
Okay,
So
I
it's-
understand now.
It's not, there's no really cost savings for it all.
Before you leave the mic, could you give us some idea what the additional $35,000 for outfit costs, what might be? I understand it'd be some painting and decaling and stuff, but
Yeah, so it would be for our light package on it. We're looking for a canopy on it so we can store a lot of the storage and stuff. The canopy we have now is aluminum, and it leaks the condensation, so we can't store any of our medical stuff in there. So we're looking at the fiberglass. We're looking for a slide-out tray for the back, so we don't have to reach in and stretch and pull everything out. A lot of it will be for outfitting with a bunch of new tools, because the truck right now doesn't have any new tools on it. No, actually it has no tools, so we're outfitting with tools. And then a lot of custom bracking for the pressurized cans in the back, and deckling for the truck, and yeah, the light package and all that. So.
Okay, any more questions? No? Okay, then I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Sure.
Opposed? None. No, none opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, so that would move us to 7.5, building permits summary. The council received a summary of building permits, June 2022, report of building permit inspector for information. Unless someone has a question, we'll just get that moved and seconded. Okay. No questions? All in favor? Thank you. Do I have to step out of the chair to do the tourism? No? Okay, we move to 8.1. Well, basically, we've had I guess it's our first in-person meeting, second in-person meeting with the tourism committee. You know, we're working with the DDBIA. We're, you know, sort of piggybacking on the existing recovery plans that are working in the area. We'll see what happens. We have done a review of our marketing plan. We have updated some of the banners. We're basically looking at an overall major review next year, well, after elections and perhaps new committee members. Any questions on that marketing plan? No? You get a motion to accept it? All in favor? Thank you. And now at the last meeting, we're on 8.1.2. At the last meeting, a local biking enthusiast, Don Hatton, pointed out to us that quite often on the weekends here, you can't get a parking spot halfway up Mount Zuhalem because of the number of mountain bikers that are coming into the valley to use the great riding that we have here. And Don had suggested that perhaps the tourism committee could work with North Cowichan to perhaps come up with a plan for some signage that says to the bikers, now that you've finished riding down Mount Zuhalem, come downtown and have a drink or have a meal. So we're hoping to try and work with, obviously with North Cowichan, because we'd be putting most of the signage in their municipality, but also just to see if there's if there is an appetite for this sort of expansion of tourism, or whether it's something we would just leave until the new committee's involved. Go ahead.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Duncan. The recommendation you have before you is slightly different from what was discussed at the committee meeting. I know there was some discussion about monument signs at various parking lots at the mountain biking locations throughout the community. My understanding is we were looking for a way to accomplish that through the existing tourism marketing plan. Mm-hmm. We do, in fact, have budget this year to do some social media marketing. And our hope was that there could be further discussion about signage at the next budget meeting for the tourism advisory committee. So when reviewing the banner plan and other priorities for the committee, that would be an opportunity to discuss what it would look like once we have a better understanding of costs for signage at mountain biking locations. So in the meantime, something that council could accomplish is directing staff to facilitate the creation of a social media ad targeting the mountain biking community that comes to the area anyway.
So I gave a bit of an overall view. This is specifically around part of it, which is to do some online advertising now. We've got money in there already for it. We'll move that. Seconded. All in favor? Oh, go ahead. You're anxious to. Okay. New business, 9.1. Correspondence to Mayor and Council, Town of View Royal, for the Island Rail Corridor. That's just in here for information.
Sorry. This was an addition requested by Councillor Bruce.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I just saw that the town of View Royal had done up this letter to everybody, anybody that wanted to read it, because they're concerned that we're going to lose the corridor if the communities don't get behind it and at least save the corridor. And what I asked Mrs. McWilliam to do was to draft something where we could send a letter of support back to View Royal. That was kind of the idea, supporting their letter that they have. Did everyone get a copy of it? Yeah. And I just thought that was a good idea, just to encourage them. And I'm not sure what else to do after that, but I am very concerned that we're going to lose that corridor, and it will be gone forever. And I think that's very, very short-sighted thinking. Maybe not for us here, maybe nothing will happen, but for future years, to lose that corridor for rail transport, I think would be a real mistake. So I'd just like to encourage, I just wanted us to send a letter of encouragement to the town of View Royal. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. This is a really, really important issue. And in this letter, the main focus of it is their UBCM resolution that's going to be considered at the convention. So in terms of something that can be done by this council, the members that are going to UBCM is to support this resolution, to spread awareness of this resolution. And yeah, just that's something that can be done as well.
Go ahead, Councillor Brooke.
Thank you, Mayor, Acting Mayor. And do we know whether this is supported by the bands that this land goes across?
Guess all I could say to that would be we know at least one of the bands is opposed because they're in court, and there'll be a decision by next March as to whether or not that land will be returned to them. You know, I don't know what else to say on this. You know, if someone wants to put forward a motion for a letter of support, or if you're happy enough with the discussion that we've had, you know, I have a concern around the transportation corridor. I don't want to lose it, but I also recognize from being the council rep to the Island Corridor Foundation for quite a few years that we really need to find a big pot of money to do anything with this corridor other than to wait till someone has those funds. It looks to me like they're looking for a commitment from the provincial and federal government, and I think the last time the provincial government looked at it, they weren't really bringing big bags of money. So, you know, yeah, they wanted to do another study. Yeah, so, but go ahead, Councillor Bruce.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I believe the legislation is that for the native band that's opposing it, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if we don't show a will to keep the corridor there, you know, if that isn't going to be the case, then it reverts back to their ownership, I believe. Does anybody know? And I think if we show some action towards ownership or the using of the corridor for the railway, I think that negates part of their concerns, whether the property goes back to the band or not. I think that's the way it's coming down. Thank you.
Mr. DeVerta, are you trying to get some information on that?
Sorry, Acting Mayor Duncan. I can't seem to find the date specifically, but to reference the Nanuspan's Supreme Court case was dismissed, but I believe the Allen Quarter Foundation and the province and federal government were given by a certain date by which an expectation, if you will. I don't know if it's a hard drop.
It's March 2023.
Yeah.
23. So not a lot of time left for a funding commitment, but it is still there. So I think if there isn't an act by that point, I think there was an opening for the Nanuspan to bring forward their claim once again at that point. And to speak to the other nations along the quarter, I believe they're all waiting to see what happens. And most, I don't know if that's a stretch to say, but I would believe many are supportive of rail along the quarter. They're all participants in the Island Quarter Foundation, just like the rest of us as municipalities, but they're wanting to see some action along the quarter.
Nope. You
Move
moving something?
to accept that report then, or that correspondence?
Well, the choice would be to move a motion of support of that letter. That would be your choice, or
Or
we
not?
would just move on to 9.2, so. Okay. Is there a seconder? Yeah, so there's a motion to send a letter of support to Town of View Royal. Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Stacy? In favor?
Go on, Stacy.
Sorry, okay. Councillor Brooke opposed. And 9.2, Plan H for health. That sounds good. The council directs staff to sign a funding agreement between BC Healthy Communities Society, the City of Duncan, for a healthy public policy grant of $15,000 if the grant application is successful. Is there someone that wants to speak to that? Go ahead, Ms. Crossman.
Thank you, Mayor Duncan. So the city has filled out a grant application together with Cowichan Green Community, and they have a project that they're looking to perform to create a Cowichan food policy, and I believe they've been working on this and other initiatives just like this for quite some time. So this is a standalone project, but in some ways it's a continuation of work that they've been doing. So we're just acting as a flow-through for this money and being a signatory to the grant application. So if the application is successful, we're looking for council's approval to sign the funding agreement on behalf of the city and accept the funds and then disperse them out to the Cowichan Green community.
Mover and a seconder. Okay, Robert. Any questions? Go ahead.
Does it say what the money's for?
Mayor Duncan, through to Councillor Bruce, the money is to create a Cowichan food policy. So it's building on the previous food security work that was conducted in the Cowichan region. They're going to work on collecting data through mixed research methods such as focus groups, key informant interviews, surveys, and roundtable discussions, a literature review of existing food policies and food asset maps, an equity impact assessment, and the development of an equity-informed policy framework and brief.
Go ahead.
So it's a study? Speak up, please, I can't hear you.
It's what we're going to call it a strategy.
But
Yeah.
it's at no cost to the city.
No
We're
cost
just
to
gonna
the city.
We're just going to be signing and letting the checks come through our account.
And the checks are coming from,
The provincial government has a grant program that that we're applying to. So if we're successful on behalf of Cowichan Green Community, the money will, $15,000 will come to the city, and then we'll pay it out to Cowichan Green Community as they perform their project.
Okay, seeing no other questions,
Just one additional point. The Cowichan Green Committee put all the legwork into the application itself, so there wasn't much, if any, staff involvement other than physically submitting the application. They're quite good organizationally at grant applications and reporting and preparation. So unlike in perhaps some other scenarios where we're not so keen on being a flow through, can have a lot of impacts depending on who the organization is that we're working with. In this particular case, I'm quite confident that the Cowichan Green Committee can do a good job and keep the load off of our staff in that respect.
Okay. No other questions? All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Bruce opposed. That takes us to item 10.1, reports of mayor and councillors. Well, it'll only be councillors tonight if anyone wants to report. You all got good report cards? You took them home already? Is that it? Yeah. I see. Okay. Question period. Ms. McWilliams, no questions? Go ahead. I'll go back.
I would just like to thank the staff and our parade day. That was absolutely spectacular, I thought. I was in the parade, and it was I think the work that has gone into our little city. We had visitors here, and they were blown away by that day, and I guess everyone here was downtown, I'm sure, but it was absolutely spectacular. I'd just like to say thank you to DBIA, I guess, DDBIA, and
the Cowichan Summer Festival Society. For sure.
Thank you.
They're the
who else should we
big
be thanking?
organizers of the parade itself.
Who else should we be thanking?
The parade participants, ourselves.
Yeah, thank. But I thought it was a great day downtown. Bob, did you, or Councillor Book?
It was fun.
Yeah,
was
good.
fun.
And I was wondering, when I was downtown, my kids went to see the belly dancers, and we couldn't get them out of there. We had 3 little girls watching the belly dancers, and it was just so packed with people. And I think you were there, Mayor Duncan, and with the belly dancers, weren't you?
No.
I thought you were. And it was absolutely spectacular. We had so much fun downtown. I would just like to say thank you to the societies and the Downtown Business Association for putting that together. Thank you. I also, just a follow-up, saw KISS, and that was a spectacular show too.
Yeah, that was good.
So anyway, thanks to Long John for that too. I just think this whole music program and the way our whole community is involved with the parade and everything, and was spectacular. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that report, Councillor Bruce. And we'll move on now to question period, which I believe you said we had no questions. Nothing came forward about belly dancing in the last few minutes. Okay, you can't believe it. Okay. Then we go to item 12.1, motion to close, that the meeting be closed to the public under the following sections of the community charter to discuss matters related to 1, personal information, section 90-1-A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality, and employee relations, section 90, section 1C, labor relations or other employee relations. So I got a motion to go into closed. All those in favor? So we'll give, 5 minutes?